Hi, everybody. I'm Martin Bandyke. It's another 107 one-on-one, and I'm just thrilled and delighted to have with us the lead vocalist of Lake Street Dive, Rachael Price. The new album, obviously, just out in about the last month, debuting at number 5 in the Billboard album chart, which is fantastic news. Rachael, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on the success of this new album. My first question for everyone these days: how are you? How's everyone in your family? How have you been surviving these last 12 months or so like no other?
My family is good. Thank you for asking.
Good.
And everybody's surviving and doing their best. And yeah, I think all things considered, besides an intense yearning to be playing live shows, I've been very fortunate and I'm doing well. Thank you.
Your latest album was written and recorded before the pandemic began or during?
Yeah,
When was this all done?
just before.
Just
We made it.
before.
We made it February through beginning of March of last year.
Wow. So just at the tail end when
Yeah,
things were
exactly.
just starting to change. Where was it recorded and who did you work with in terms of your producer on this album? A really cool choice and an interesting choice for your producer on the album.
Yeah, we made it with Mike Elizondo at his was his new studio in Nashville. I think it was it's the first record that he made in that studio. He had just moved there from LA, and yeah, it's interesting. We've gotten a lot of this feedback a lot. People saying it was such an interesting choice to choose Mike Elizondo, but personally, I felt for a long time like he is maybe the perfect or the only producer for Lake Street Dive because he he is so familiar and so experienced with so many different styles of music. And also the fact that he plays the upright bass, he's a wonderful upright bass player, I think is like a really great thing to have with a pop band that has an upright bass,
Yeah.
which is like an asset and a challenge. And so just his background in jazz and his background in hip hop and his background in like the folk and the rock world, he's just done so much. I was like, who else? Yeah, I felt like he was made for the job.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you look at his resume and it's like who hasn't or he worked with in terms of music, Eminem and Fiona Apple and Carrie Underwood and Ry
Yeah,
Cooder. It's like, wow, that's
yeah,
a pretty cool resume. And that works for a band as diverse as yours, I think, very, very well.
yeah,
So this was done at his studio, first album in his studio, you say in Tennessee?
yeah. That's right. Yeah, actually, in a town called Gallatin, which is essentially exactly where I grew up. I was recording like 15 minutes from
Wow.
my my hometown, Hendersonville. So it was kind of weird for me in that sense because it's not really a place that I would consider a destination. But yeah.
There's a lot of themes on this album, and there's a lot of fun stuff and playful songs about love's ins and outs. And there's some more serious material on this album as well. And I just love the way all the themes sort of play off against one another. It just goes in so many different directions. I noticed that you are not the chief songwriter in the band. You co-wrote 2 songs on the album. Who writes most of the material for the band in general and on the new album, obviously?
Well, there's no conscious choice about who writes the most. We're completely equal and democratic in the songs that we choose. So basically, everyone can contribute as much or as little as they want, and we give every song a fair shake. And then what's there is what's there. We've worked really hard to foster a dynamic where sort of once a song is brought into the fold of the band and we're playing it, we all feel a sense of ownership over it, and also want to acknowledge the person who wrote the song. So we feel both of those things are really important. Yeah, so it's not one way or the other. There could be an entire album in the future that I write most of the songs
Yeah.
for. Who knows? I mean, it's not likely, but
Uh, Tell us about the other members of the band. How did you first get together, and who else is Lake Street Dive?
The four of us, which is Mike Olson, Mike, who's the guitar and the trumpet player, and Mike Calabrese and Bridget. Mike Calabrese is the drummer, Bridget's a bass player. So we met in college, long time ago, 16, 17 years ago, and at jazz school at the New England Conservatory. And then Mike Olson formed the band. He was a composition major, and after being there, I think for a year and maybe not really finding himself in big band charts, thought maybe I should just start writing some songs and form this band. And then Aki, who has now been in the band for a few years, we met because we just saw him. Well, actually, we played a show with him in New York a few years ago. So we saw him play and we're instant fans, and we're fans for many years. And then we thought to ourselves, maybe we should bring a keyboard player out on tour. And he became irreplaceable.
Oh, the sound, when I try to describe it, I get into too many hyphenates. Well, they're pop, but there's certainly a jazz element, but there's this folk thing, and there's like blues, and it's like, wow, it's really hard to define this band. And I just love groups like that who just defy the easy pigeonholing. You've got quite a background as a jazz vocalist. I want to hear more about this, and our listeners want to hear more about this as well, because you've got some impressive credentials as a vocalist. Tell me about those.
Thank you. I grew up singing jazz. It was my first love. It was my entryway into singing. And I don't know why. I was really young. I was like 5 or 6 when I got an Ella Fitzgerald CD and fell in love with her singing, and it grew from there. I mean, my dad definitely grew up with a rich tradition of the music of the 30s and 40s from his parents, and so that was always around and in the house and available to listen to. So yeah, I just got really, really into early jazz singing, 30s, 40s, 50s, and assumed for, I'll say a long time, but from the age of 5 to 25, that's all I was going to pursue was just being a straight ahead jazz singer.
And then what changed?
Basically Lake Street Dive. Yeah, Lake Street Dive. I mean, I certainly haven't set singing jazz down, and I have a duo project with a friend named Vilry, and he writes music from like that sounds like it's from the 30s and 40s, which is amazing. And so I am still sort of flexing my jazz love there. But yeah, basically Lake Street Dive. I mean, I met them and it felt like such a continuation of what I had learned from singing jazz, like taking other people's songs and being the one to interpret them uniquely and to communicate the lyrics. And so I really liked that challenge because it felt really connected to everything that I had wanted to do my whole life. And, the fact that it was more in the pop realm was great to me too, because I don't really, I don't necessarily consider myself a singer of a specific genre.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. You mentioned Ella. There was, I don't know if you heard it, I guess a never previously before show from Berlin from the early 60s just came out last year. And I just sit there slack-jawed listening to her going, just another night on the road where she does things that are impossibly mind-boggling. And it sounds like there's just no effort into it at all, and it's just like no, that's all effort. It's like Degas and Cezanne, as they look like, oh, they were just dashed off like that, but no, that took a whole lifetime to learn how to do that and make it sound and look effortless. God.
She's such a genius. That live album has Jersey Bounce on it, right?
Yep, sure does.
And that's one of my favorite songs that she ever sang, and that version of Jersey Bounce is mind-blowing. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just like the feel of it, the energy in the room, everything she does. It's like all of her classic things that you hear her do, but all at once. And I actually was driving through Woodstock like 4 days ago, and I listened to that song on repeat, that track on repeat, like 8 times in a row. And I was like trying to memorize it because she blows my mind. She always will.
I know she will. And I think also on that new reissue, it's one song where she apparently, I don't know if she's playing around, but she forgets that she's apparently in Berlin for a second, and the audience has to remind her. And she just makes that into something, just like in her famous version of Mac the Knife, where she really completely forgets the lyrics, and that just turns it into magic the way, like Johnny Carson would do back in the day when a joke would flop and then he would do something even better off the top of his head. Do you ever had that issue live where something went completely awry and you went blank on a lyric and you had to just make something up? Have you ever had an experience like that?
Those so often become the funniest moments. It's like when you're entertaining and you're backed into a corner, oftentimes those are your like true moments of inspiration.
Yeah. I've had that on the air too, and a few times on the radio. Like, what do I do? How do I save this segment? So, oh goodness. What else do you listen to besides, or other vocalists or other music besides Ella, who we've been talking about? Who are some of your other musicians, jazz vocalists or otherwise of any genre? I'm just curious.
Yeah, wow, it's such a big mix of things. I mean, all the great jazz vocalists. I listen to a lot of that music. I listen to a lot of hip hop and R&B. Growing up, beyond, if it wasn't Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan or Chet Baker or Doris Day or Peggy Lee. Those were my favorites, or Sam Cooke, or Stevie Wonder. It was Erykah Badu and Lauryn Hill, and it was the mid '90s. So Boyz II Men and like Babyface, like all of that music. Mariah Carey, love that stuff so much. Still do. Still hasn't gotten old for me at all. I mean, I'm very much like inspired and obsessed with everything that Erykah Badu does, and like her entire presence and being. Seen her live many times, and she's amazing. She to me is a jazz singer. She's like a continuation of the art form in all the beautiful ways. And D'Angelo, I feel the same way about.
Yeah. Who I had the honor of seeing at the Fox Theater in Detroit, and it was just
that was probably so good.
And culminating with him just walking, running up and down the aisles right in front of us at the Fox Theater in Detroit. It was a special show. Yeah, you mentioned just a little bit more about this project you have with Vilry, which is a tribute to like the older pop standards, 30s and 40s. I don't think not enough people know about that. What is this all about again?
Yeah. Well, Vilry went to school with us as well at the New England Conservatory. Okay. And he's a really amazing guitar player and songwriter, and is very immersed and authentic as far as when it comes to writing songs from the 30s and 40s. He's captured all the witticism of the lyrics, the heartbreak and the humor, and doing it simultaneously in a way that's like beautiful and dreamy and also very funny. And it's really, really, really fun because it's usually has, for the last few years, it's mostly just the two of us performing. So we sing songs in harmony and we do little duets back and forth. And then sometimes I just sing the songs. But, one of the pitfalls, or one of the things that I've struggled with singing jazz, is that you're doing songs that people already, because they're classics, and they've been around for this long, people have such a strong connection to them already from some other version. And it's hard to get that version out of your head. I mean, it's just hard to do it. It's like, it's hard to sing Blue Moon because it's just like, because people just, they have their version of that song that they're thinking about. So to be able to sing melodies as beautiful and lyrics as funny and as heartbreaking but that of songs that nobody's heard, is to me a miracle. And I really think that Vilry is exceptional at being able to embody this style.
And you have an album out on Nonesuch, correct? That came out a year or two ago, correct?
Yeah, a year or two ago it came out. Yeah.
All right. Now, just want to make sure we get that out there, because it is well worth checking out. Yeah, it's good stuff. Rachel, really appreciate your time. Before we let you run, what is it going to mean the first time you're going to be able to step out a stage? Have you had your shots yet? Do you have any idea you might be performing next? And what do you think it'll be like?
I'm one shot in. I get my next shot in a week. And,
good.
And I have an outdoor gig in a couple weeks. And things I think are going to start to change a little bit, and we'll play safe outdoor gigs. Vilry and I will be playing in Woodstock in May. Yeah, I think it'll happen soon, and I think at first I'll be out of shape. But it'll be like that time where like you haven't like hiked in months, and you go on that first hike and you can't believe the beauty, and you're also super out of breath.
Right. Well, when that time comes, we look forward to seeing you in the greater Ann Arbor area, and congratulations on the new Lake Street Dive album. Obviously, this has been a 107 one-on-one with Rachael Price, lead vocalist of Lake Street Dive. We wish you all the best, stay well, and hope to see you in Ann Arbor soon, my friend.
Thanks
for
you so
joining
much.
us.
Bye, Martin.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.